Welcome to Fueling Your Legacy, hosted by Samuel Knickerbocker. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a new, stronger foundation essential in creating your legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. Welcome to the Fuel Your Legacy show, and today we're going to be talking more about branding. So we introduced the topic on Monday, and today we're going to go into more depth on a book review that Brian Halley, our guest this Friday, had requested. And the book is called The Hero and the Outlaw. I will have a link to it here. You can only basically buy it in print. That's the only way to get it. No audiobook, unfortunately, but it's still a fantastic book. But I want to throw just a few announcements out there. Again, go to my website, samknickerbocker.com. You can get access to my speaking events, as well as my ebook, my free ebook, as well as my webinar. And then you can also schedule a time if you'd like to learn more about what I do, or start and get a meeting with me, or be a guest on the podcast. There's a lot of options there on my website. All things are possible at my website. So go to samknickerbocker.com. And then also to just give a little preview of the speaking events that I have going on this weekend at Strengthen Your World. I'm going to be talking primarily about money, but definitely how money affects our health, habits, and behaviors. And then on May 11th, I will be speaking at the Next Generation Legacy and Wealth Workshop. And that we're going to be talking more in depth on a little bit of my story, how I got passionate and why I got passionate about wealth and legacy. And then what are some strategies that you can actually take home, some tangibles that you can take home and start implementing in your life about building a legacy specifically for you and your family. So we're going to have some, that's what we're going to be talking about there. And then on June 7th and 8th, I'm going to be talking at the Level Up workshop, and that's going to be wealth and real estate, and just have some really, really fantastic things I'm going to share there about some different, again, more strategies of how to really maximize your real estate investments and how to make the most out of your life. As you're building an empire, it's important to make sure that your empire is protected and that you're building it appropriately for your end goal. And so I will be talking about those. So those are the next 3 events that are coming up. As more come online, I will definitely be making you aware of them. I do have promo codes for all 3 of them. So if you're looking for a discount to get into, to listen to me speak or listen to some of the other fantastic speakers, this weekend, I'm super excited. If you want to get some just intro to some of the speakers who are going to be there at this weekend for Strengthen Your World. There's Travis Brady. That was last week's episode. You're going to miss Maddie Meek. Maddie Meek is going to be the next week, so you'll see her. But also Eric, I always mess up his last name, but he is back. I did a podcast with him as well a few months back, so you can go listen to him. But definitely this one's going to be focused more on gut health, the second brain. How can we actually maximize our health, which is inseparably connected to your wealth and your legacy. There's a gentleman that's from here in Utah, and he has a lot of money, great legacy, owned multiple institutions, owned the U.S. Jazz, just had a bunch of stuff. And he actually died. If you read his book, Driven, his name is Larry H. Miller, and he actually died from an infection when they amputated his legs. And why did they amputate his legs? Because he had diabetes, a completely preventable disease he had because he didn't take care of his health. And that's not to slander him or say anything bad about him. He is an incredible man, father, leader, community leader, and businessman. But it does show that no matter how much money you have, if you have a sore throat, if you're not feeling good, if your health isn't up to par, then it doesn't matter how much money you have, you're still unhappy. So that's what we're going to be talking about this weekend. It's phenomenal. I'm super excited there. Now I want to hop right in because learning about your brand is really at the heart of marketing. It's the heart of being you and expressing yourself. And one of the things that I've found in my branding is learning to be consistent. So what type of things do we need to look out for when we're being consistent? So you may not have thought about this, but branding is way more psychology than it is anything else, right? So you want somebody to be able to be attracted to your brand purely because of the angles in which you take photos, the types of colors that are in your photos, the types of people that are in your photos and where your photos are taken. So that's just on photo side. What's the color of your website? What are the colors that you make all of your print in? What style of print? Do you have your own typography? Did you create your own thing, or are you using somebody else's? But does it fit in that the area that actually is going to support your brand? Is it a type of typography that's going to support your brand or detract from your brand? So there's 12 different brand archetypes. And so identifying your 12 archetypes is really what this book is about, the hero and the outlaw. And it's kind of walking yourself through a brief description of these brand archetypes. And then once you have the brief description, then you're going to go into the more in-depth, and they go through each archetype and talk about different companies, different methods that they're using to share their information. So what are the archetypes and why are they important? Well, I'm going to briefly go over the archetypes so you have a basic understanding, and then I'll tell you what my brand archetype is, just so you kind of can see what's happening. I'm still in the brand evolution. I'm learning to streamline and identify my brand. But out of the 12 archetypes, and there's a bunch of different what's the word? There are a bunch of different people who are going to brand these, and sometimes each person will just make their own brand just so that they they'll rename the 12 archetypes just so they can be unique, and that's fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that. But just be aware that that's what's happening, so you aren't like, wow, you said it was this. Okay, just depend on what it is. So if we're going to go use the terminology from the book, we'll just use the terminology from the book. Fair enough? Perfect. So there are, oh man, where'd they go? I will find them here in a second. Okay, so out of the archetypes, there are the magician. The magician helps you make your dreams come true. They're like Disney, and they're all about making your dreams come true. The sage is always seeking truth. Somebody who you might think of as a sage is Oprah. Somebody who is always that her brand is always seeking information and bringing you truth. So seeking truth. The innocent is somebody who's just like nostalgically just wants to be happy, doesn't want to be taken too seriously. That's an innocent brand. The outlaw seeks revolution. They want to change the way things are doing. They want to go disrupt an industry. Apple is an outlaw brand. It's basically saying, look, you can be solo, you can be yourself, and set a new trend. Okay. Jester is always funny. They're always going to be the thing that's always adding humor to something. So Old Spice or Geico, these types of companies, they are jesters and they just want to make a joke out of everything. The lover, these are people who are passionate, pleasureful. They make you love them and that you are their love. Okay, so this is a brand. Okay, so it's not an individual, but it's a brand and how it's interacting with you. The explorer, Maverick, is an explorer brand, right? They're all about, hey, going, pushing the line, going and learning new things, on the move. You never have to like stay in one spot. You're just always out doing something else. The ruler wants absolute power. So they're luxury brands. They're going to be like a Mercedes-Benz, something like that, where they're showing such a high class of thing that you'd be honored to be part of them. And that's how Mercedes-Benz has become. The caregiver is more of the nurturing brand. So like a Johnson & Johnson, something that is really focused on helping you just like take care of yourself. The hero is like any military operation, somebody who's basically saying, hey, we are going to prove to you that we can save you, and we're always going to be the pushing the limits of saving people. So that's the hero. And then there's just the regular guy or girl. They just want to belong. So your branding is going to be branding to people who just want to belong, and you're going to give them a place of belonging. Also to really succeed in that one, your product or your service must be something that is highly relatable, something that is definitely everybody across cultures, across demographics, everybody's using it. So something like coffee, like Folgers coffee or something. You don't want to make a big scene. You just want to be the regular guy. You're in every house type thing. And then there's the creator. The creators are the people who they really crave perfection, but they are very intuitive, right? So they're going to take things that generally would be not used for creation, and they're going to turn that into a creative something. And that is the creator, and that's the 12th. So brief overview again. There's the magician, the sage, the innocent, the outlaw, the jester, the lover, the explorer, the ruler, the caregiver, the hero, the regular guy or girl, or the creator. Okay. And each of these have their own purpose and their own intention, and they all have their own feeling. And then what's interesting is rather than having to tell somebody or create your own story completely, this book, The Hero and the Outlaw, talks a lot about how do you connect your story, your brand, your feeling to age-old myths or stories or something that's been around for eons, right? You want to be able to connect into something like that, because when you're able to connect into a pre-existing story, then all of those feelings, all of those the connections, the emotional history, the memories, all of that your clients already have, they're now going to relate you to that, and then they're going to want to work with you because you're walking them right into that feeling. And so it takes a lot of the legwork off of you trying to like present this brand, present this image. You're taking the legwork completely off and helping yourself just become instantly connected with these people. So that's one area of branding that's really important. And then when you're marketing, you want to make sure that not just so I've talked about the imagery, how you're taking your photos. I've talked about the lettering, the colors that you're going to be using, how your website is structured, the accessibility, the flow of it is all going to be that. How about how you're dressed, right? So how you're dressed is part of that. So I don't know if you've ever heard of Lewis Howes. Lewis Howes, he has a very specific way he dresses for his brand. Now, he probably dresses that way outside of that as well, but for his brand, he always has a t-shirt and a different, so if let's say the t-shirt's gray, he's going to have a black, or the t-shirt's yellow, he's going to have a white or a red or green or something. Pocket square, so not a pocket square, but like a front pocket, the t-shirts with the pockets on the front left breast. So that's his brand. He's got that, and he's got some jeans or some khakis or something like that, and that's his brand. So all of his imagery, he's going to show up in that. When he goes to speak on stage, he's going to show up in that because it's part of his brand. And so learning how to do your branding is really important. For me, something that's consistent with my brand from a dress standpoint is a shirt and tie often, right? So I'm a magician. That's my primary, the brand, how Fuel Your Legacy likes to interact with people is through a magician. If you want to learn more about that, go and find that out. But that's one thing that's really helpful. So that is learning how to dress, and then also for me, how to do your hair, what type of shoes to wear. All of those little things, they're all included in branding yourself properly. And when you're posting things online, when you're doing things, you need to be consistent in your brand. We've all had those friends who are two-faced, right? We have the friend who says they're this way, they're going to be there, going to be on time, they're professing to be one way, but then you know that you can never count on them to show up how they say they're going to show up, right? Well, you don't want people intuitively, not even consciously thinking this, but intuitively recognizing the inconsistency, the lack of congruency in your brand, because lack of congruency leads to lack of clients. And so if you're trying to get clients, or if you're trying to accomplish something, do that. Now, let's just talk about we've been talking about a business standpoint, okay? But let's talk about a legacy standpoint. So from a legacy, what types of legacies are there? Things that I'm passionate about building legacy in are my family. So how can we brand our family legacy? So one of a leader that I look up to and respect, his name is Rich Tholley. And Rich Tholley, you can go Google him, but he, part of his brand is he's a family man. And him and his wife are like, they're part of their brand. And if you know him, you know his wife, and you know that he is absolutely committed to that. And so bringing in his family, that's part of his legacy. And he's branded his family or branded his legacy as being a family man. So understanding how to brand that is important. How do you transfer your brand to your children? How do you get your children to buy in to the family brand? Okay, so for my family, last name Knickerbocker, what I would consider our family brand. So when your brand is basically your reputation. Your brand is what people are saying about you behind your back, long, far away from you. Okay. So what do people say about knickerbockers? And this, I feel like, was fairly intentional by my parents. Okay. And that is that one of the Knickerbocker brands is we work hard work. That everybody knows how to work hard in my family. And that's something that doesn't matter where you meet a Knickerbocker. If you meet somebody from our family, that's 99% of what you're going to say about them is, okay, they work hard. That's what they do. There's another aspect of most of our families pretty musical. That did not get passed down to me, but that's something that a lot of people will know our family from is being musical. Another thing is being willing to just go out and try things no matter what. Just keep trying and keep trying and keep trying and being persistent. So those are things that are kind of wrapped up in our family brand. We had a family mission statement that we talked about every week of my life growing up. We read our family mission statement together. We had certain things that we did to make sure and mold that brand into what now is going to go into multiple generations and thus create a legacy of meaning. And so when you're thinking about it from a business standpoint, if you want your business to perpetuate multi-generational, then you need to create a brand that's going to be there for forever. Okay, so GE has its own brand. Apple has its own brand. Facebook has its own brand. All these companies, they have their own brand, and they're going to represent them the same way. So to do a contrast, who owns Facebook? Who owns Instagram? They're both owned by the same corporation. Yet, because they're for different purposes, Instagram is branded and has a different intention. It has a different feel. It has a different look. Everything is different about Instagram than Facebook. Even though they're owned by the same people, they're running two different brands and they're accomplishing two different objectives. How about cars? Okay. So you have Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep. I don't know. There's probably more than just those three, but they're all three the same people. Well, Dodge is more like a rough, meaty, bulky looking car that's like ready to go do some work. Or you have the Dodge Challenger or the Charger. They're muscle cars. Okay. So they're big, bulkier cars. And then you have Chrysler. Chrysler's like the sleek, luxury type vehicle. And so they have a line that they've branded just luxury. They have a line that they've branded work. And then Jeep is all about having fun and relationships and exploring type things. So they have three different brands. Even though the same corporation owns all three, they're rebranding different lines of their company so that they can reach into each different market. And that's what sometimes you have to do that from a standpoint of a corporation. You have to think, okay, how do we want to reach into this market? How do we want to reach into this market? What do we want our brand to be when we're talking about that? What do we want our brand to be when we're talking about this other product? And you can product brand things, or if you're branding yourself as an individual, it's a lot harder to separate into different brands, but you can say, okay, how do I want to show up? How can I brand myself this way? How can I create the reputation that when somebody who doesn't know me interacts with things from me, they know exactly who I am and what I'm doing. So great personal brands, okay? Lewis Howes is one. Ed Mylett is one. Tony Robbins is one. Dave Ramsey's one. Grant Cardone. All of these people, they've personally branded themselves to where you hear their name, you know really close to exactly who they are. Oprah, I mentioned that. Donald Trump, he has his own personal brand. He has the brand of just being like really brash and upfront. Okay. He doesn't care what anybody thinks. He's going to go do his own thing. You can't control him. So these are all features of their brand, and it doesn't matter where he's been his whole life. He's always been on point in this brand. He's stayed within brand. Now, you get him behind curtains. Is he a different person? Probably. He has different aspects to their personalities, but what they bring to the world and what they're willing to show everybody else, they're not going to break brand out in public. And when brand gets broken out in public, then they have to start maybe not covering up, but then that's when they have to manage PR, public relations, because they want to make sure that their brand stays intact. They don't want to destroy the brand. So those are some basic things. I'm going to put some links in the show notes here to help you, one, get access to the book so you can really dive deep into understanding what brand you are. There's lots of different examples to help you really clarify what brand you are. You're going to have a primary and a secondary at minimum. When I do my brand testing, I come out with like a primary and then 3 that are evenly tied. And so just understand you're going to have, like, just like any personality test, whether it's the love languages or the 4 tendencies or whatever it is, there's always going to be overlap. And don't worry about the overlap. The goal is you need to pick one brand and stick to it. And that's the objective. So it doesn't matter which one it is. It's easier if you pick a brand that's natural to you and you find out, okay, this is my natural way of behaving, my natural way of showing up. That way you don't have to think about and put in a lot of effort to show up a certain way. But there are companies who do. They say, hey, I want to affect that market. That market is looking for this type of brand. So I'm going to create that type of brand so I can get into that market. That happens all the time. It's not a bad thing, but it's definitely much easier if you're just focused on, hey, who am I? Let's identify who I am and how I want to interact with the world. Now, even then, you're going to have parts that are overlapping. And what I'm going to invite you to do is, even those things that are overlapping, hem them all into one brand and just be in alignment with your brand so that you're not off courting other people who are going to see, so your brand doesn't, the people who are your clients who recognize your authenticity, your integrity, you don't want them thinking, hey, they're cheating on me, they're going over to this other brand. You want them to just say, hey, look, I'm always this is my brand. Other people will still come in and be okay with that, and they'll still use you. But what's important is that your brand is clear and everybody knows exactly what you stand for and what your brand is. So with that being said, I'm going to end it there. But definitely, if you're curious about what your brand is, how you want to interact with the world, whether you're with a company or whether you are simply just moving forward in the process of branding yourself personally, these resources are absolutely crucial. And you just need to know. You need to know how to brand yourself, because if you don't, then your business or your life, you're gonna have this weird disjointed reputation. And when people say, well, who's Sam? I don't actually know. He just does so many different things. He's just kind of there. Well, that doesn't help you be successful if there's not clarity in who you are, who you represent. So anyways, that is that for today. But take a screenshot, post it on social media, tag me in it, and I will give you a shout out on the next Fuel Your Legacy episode. We're grateful for you, and I am super excited for you to get to hear from Brian Halley. We talk a lot about things, branding, also go into a little bit of religious stories and talk about how branding has been used with different religions across the world, and what that means for us and how we can piggyback on some of those things if we choose to. So have a wonderful day, and we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy. Thanks for joining us today. If what you heard resonated with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me so I can give you a shout out on the next episode. And thanks to all those who have left a review. It helps spread the message of what it really takes to build a legacy that lasts. Catch you next time on Fueling Your Legacy.